Deal, and I am your guide, Marcus Murray. I'm excited today because we're going to actually dissect a very diabolical strategy that is actually permeating today's culture. And it's something that I call the guilt cycle. There are people in today's culture that have made the decision that they are going to stand as recipients versus contributors. These are people that want to take and they don't want to give. You know, a lot of times we encounter individuals on a day-to-day basis, some at our jobs, some in different places of business, and we begin to realize that this person is a taker and not a giver. What's interesting about life, a person cannot take themselves wealthy. You can only take so much from another individual, but you will never be able to take enough to become wealthy. The reason is it's adverse to the system of life that's been put in place by the creator. There are principles that actually govern wealth creation, and that's why he that gives will get more. It's better to give than to receive. If you give a prophet a glass of water, you will receive a prophet's reward. Um, the more you freely give, the more God will show that He is the greatest giver of them all. So, what is going on in today's culture? This diabolical behavior, this guilt cycle, what is that? And where do we see it? I would submit to you that in today's culture, because there is some type of reverse indoctrination that's happening, people are being taught to despise success. They're being taught to hate what others have accomplished. And therefore, it's created this weird culture of adverse influence where people that fail to achieve are attempting to psychologically control and dominate individuals that have achieved. Well, I would submit to you, if you've been able to make it and put a half of a century behind you, you are not going to fall for the hype. You will not be deceived by the tricks of the enemy. You are great and you have achieved some things, and you can be proud, godly proud of the things that you've been able to achieve and accomplish. But in order to get to the place and point in life that you probably desire or are aiming for, you've got to be able to identify the trick or the trickery of the guilt cycle. How does it work? Well, it happens that you have two people. You have one person that's been able to achieve, and one person that may be at a different point in life and they haven't achieved yet. So, but instead of them working hard and trying to win friends, influence people, trying to engage the support and the encouragement and the assistance of the person that has achieved, instead, they're going to use this adverse concept of guilt cycling. And this is how it works. This person will start to complain. This person starts to complain. That's the strategy. They start complaining about their circumstance. They're complaining about how bad things are. They're complaining about everything that's going wrong for them. They're complaining about everything that happens to them. They're complaining and complaining and complaining. And then next, this is the way the cycle goes. They start blaming. And I really want to share this with you so that you can get a chance to see it. Because this is absolute insanity, but it happens. So this we're calling the guilt cycle. And so it starts here with complaining. So they first lodge the complaint. They're complaining about a person, and they're complaining that this is wrong and that is wrong and how bad life is, and I'm so frustrated with this and so frustrated with that. They're just complaining and complaining and complaining. But then the next part in this cycle, which is very critical, they begin to blame. First complaining, then blaming. And what they're doing, they're actually blaming you or someone else for the issue that they're actually complaining about. So I'm having difficulty paying my bills. I'm struggling with this. I'm behind on my rent. I have a flat tire and it's costing me money. And this is wrong, and that is wrong, and this is wrong. It's just this barrage of complaining. It's this crazy thing where they just go on this. It's almost like a complaining spree, and then the blaming starts. The blaming is blaming you or blaming someone, blaming the system, blaming the man, blaming the government, blaming. So first complaining, then blaming. And then the next thing that the person does, and if you take a look here, they start shaming. So they're going to they're going to complain, they're going to blame, and then they're going to shame. And the reason this cycle happens and it's so consistent and so repetitive is because it works at controlling behavior. So, what I mean when I say controlling behavior, if a person can get you into this cycle of blaming, shaming, complaining, if they get you into that cycle, they can theoretically control your movement. They can slow you down. They can stop you. They can keep you from achieving if they complain, blame, and shame. They actually, the whole goal of this, if you take a look here, is they're trying to create guilt. Because remember, this is the weapon they want to inflict upon you. So complain, blame, shame, and then they start to talk to others about how terrible you are. So it's complaining, blaming, shaming, and defaming. This is the guilt weapon. Complaining, blaming, shaming, and defaming. When you see this guilt cycle coming into existence, what you have to recognize is you are actually at war with an ideology. This is an ideology that is being used all around the United States in a very diabolical manner, where groupings of people are being taught through social media to actually despise the success of others. That when you see others that are successful, they're being taught to immediately complain about their circumstances. They're being taught to complain instead of to set goals. So take a look at the cycle because there is a strategy. So instead of complaining, they should be setting goals. Because if a person begins to set goals, then they don't have to complain because you're now operating with goals. And then the next thing that should happen is they should um, wait one quick second. They should affirm by using the concept of affirmation instead of blaming. They could begin to affirm what it is that they desire, right? So the response to complaining for a person that is trying to actually break out of this is to begin goal setting. Instead of blaming, they should begin writing and reading affirmations, right? And instead of shaming, they should start celebrating, because when you celebrate the success of others versus trying to shame them, you actually have the opportunity to achieve what they have been able to achieve. And instead of defaming them, you have to begin to speak well of them, right? So if you are speaking well of others, you have a greater possibility of being able to achieve the goals that you desire. So the bottom line, though, in our culture, they're using the guilt. cycle as a strategy to disable individuals, to silence those that have achieved the right to speak. By using the guilt cycle, it is a reverse attempt to try to get people to engage, and that doesn't work because it's toxic. The guilt cycle actually produces such negative energy that no one wants to help the person. So when you are a complainer, blamer, shamer, and defamer, where who wants to be close? When a person demonstrates that type of behavioral characteristics, other people pay attention to that and they want to avoid that individual like the plague. It's something about it. It doesn't win friends and influence people to you, it actually reveals you and repels you from others. That is not the strategy to win in life. In order to do anything great, we actually need other people. If greatness could be achieved in isolation, Jeff Bezos would not be who he has become. He created Amazon, offering service to others, and in offering his wisdom and insight and service to others, he has achieved unprecedented success and wealth. But without others, he could not achieve it. But to look at him and then to start complaining about this, we don't like this about him, and we don't like that. And then to begin to blame for all of our problems, and then to try to shame and defame, those are not winning strategies. So I want you to just take a look at it one last time. So if we look at the guilt cycle, this being used as a weapon, people use it by complaining, blaming, shaming, and then defaming. You are achieving greatness, and therefore you have to recognize this cycle. When you recognize this kind of conversational pattern, this person must be avoided at all costs because guilt cannot produce success. And therefore, you cannot allow anyone to cause you to experience guilt. Nelson Mandela said something from another author that literally was so profound. He said that it is not in our uh, it's not our fear of failure. It's not failure that we fear. It's actually our success. That's what he said. It's not failure that we fear. We actually fear our own success. However, in becoming all that we can be and letting the light of our success shine. By doing that, we actually liberate others and we empower them to actually to become their best selves. I'll get the exact quote on that, but it's so powerful. It is not success that we fear. I'm sorry, it is not failure that we fear. It's actually success. And with this concept of guilting and shaming, complaining, blaming, shaming, and defaming, when a person jumps on that guilt cycle, they're doing this as a method of controlling your behavior. When people see you thriving and growing, this is a strategy that they can use. Actually, do you know what's interesting? Common culture right now, modern popular culture, is teaching children to use this strategy with their parents. Complain, blame, and shame. What common culture is teaching people is that if there's anything that you don't like, if there's something that you're not pleased with, what you want to do is complain about it. You want to complain about it. And then you want to blame your parents. You want to blame them for everything that's wrong, everything that you didn't achieve. And then you want to shame them. Shame them for not doing this or not doing that or not providing this or not. And then you want to talk to everyone in the family, all your siblings, and tell all of them about your parents. Common culture today is teaching that as a strategy of getting what you want. And I would encourage anyone listening to this podcast that is planning for the future, I would encourage you not to reward bad behavior. You can't reward bad behavior. In order to raise and encourage and develop the next generation, we have to bring the truth. And the truth of the matter is, this strategy is not a winning strategy. The guilt cycle, I will not allow you to use it on me as a weapon. You have to make that decision. You cannot allow them to use that on you as a weapon. I talk to so many parents that say that their teenage children use this guilt cycle on them. They complain about everything that's wrong in their lives. They blame their parents for every problem they've had. And then they try to shame them and make them feel bad for not doing more. And then they talk about them to others to defame them. You know, even though it's something that's done commonly, I'm going to remind you, we cannot reward bad behavior, period. We have to deal with this. We have to teach our children and our children's children through setting goals and developing affirmations, celebrating the success of others and speaking well of others. That is the strategy. That is the strategy to greater and greater levels of success. When I look at my life today and I look back to where we started, I can only say that it's been nothing short of miraculous. It's not been easy. There isn't a day that's easy. The days are all fraught with different challenges and experiences, setbacks, failures, disappointments. Uh, it's a part of the life package. For a person to believe that life is always wonderful, life is always grand, life is always good, that's not the case. What makes life great are those temporary setbacks. It's the highs and the lows of life that make the highs so wonderful and so beautiful. It's not the sunshiny day that makes days so beautiful. It's the sunshiny day after the day of rain that makes life amazing. Rain is necessary. Cloudy days help us appreciate the sunny days. So the setbacks help us appreciate success. And I would say to anyone that's listening to embrace setback, embrace those moments of obstacle, embrace those trials and those tribulations, embrace the seasons of struggle, embrace the seasons where it seems like you have less than you should, that you're being rewarded far less than the work that you've done. Embrace the seasons where you're not being recognized for the contribution that you have made. That's okay. Embrace those seasons, because those seasons help prepare you for the days that you will be celebrated. There will come a day, even if you've got children that try to put you on the guilt cycle. Even if you have that, there is going to come a day when the eyes of their understanding will be opened, and they'll know exactly who you are and the value of what you've done and the struggles that you had to overcome. The reason that's important is a lot of young people, especially our children, will say, my eyes are open. Those words are scriptural. Jesus prayed that the eyes of their understanding be opened. If that is a thing that even Jesus would say, then that is a thing. There are people that are alive walking around day by day, but their eyes are closed. They don't understand the deception that's being pushed upon the general population at large. We're being deceived to believe that time is on our side, that we actually have nothing but time. But I want to remind you, just like you witnessed in this episode, there comes a day when the time runs out, when your hourglass is empty and there is no more. There comes a day when they call it the end. The end is actually upon you. And in getting ready for that, we have to help teach the next generation that there is a good way to do things, there's a better way to do things. Remember, right now, the culture is teaching the young to utilize the guilt cycle, not realizing the young people don't realize that that cycle actually keeps you away from your greatest possibility. It keeps you away from unlimited success. It keeps you away from people engaging in your project and helping you achieve a level of greatness that you could not have done alone. So, this was a pleasure. Hopefully, you learned something about the guilt cycle and you learned how to identify it, how to avoid it, and how to teach others a way to break free of it. Share the information that you've learned. If this podcast was good, please share it with someone and hit that like button down there and let others know that you like it. We have a lot of people that are tuning in and they're watching. I see so many people that approach me in different places and say, "Man, I listen to your podcast every single day. Can you click the like button? Let some others know. Can you stop being the secret subscribers and join the actual subscription?" Thank you so much. Share it with someone. Make a difference in someone else's life. You have the potential to change a life, but you have to make the decision to do it. So let's go out there and engage. Take care for now, right? And I'll see you shortly.